Hey, everybody. It's time for Geocache Talk. At work, in the car, wherever you are, we hope you enjoy the show. Please give it a like and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, TuneIn Radio, Google Play, and now Spotify. You get all the weekly Geocache Talk goodness. Big thanks to the Trail Bugs for the music and our patrons, Demon Hunter 2, Aggie Jedi Master, Electric Water Boy, Antaeus, Joshua, the geocaching vlogger, Nick at Cashley, One Kind Word, Ravenclaw Tia, Butterfly Girl, Loon Trackers, the Aussie Geocacher, Sodak Zach, the Deadliest Cachers, Terrell 2, Neil Moore, Team D&D, Geocaching Adam, Peachy 1276, the No Code Geocachers, Curiosity Girl, Tick Magnet, Marsipanic, Bricker John, Firesafe, FS Sabero, Geo Rick, Cash Addict Mel, Geocaching Janji, the Geocaching Junkie, Sir Drumalot, Janice, Tricasius, Tom Frey, Rugels, the Bruce Zero, EGK, PBR, Casamaya, Master Sergeant USMC, Little Gears, Albedo 0.39, It's Only Barney, Purple Turtles 3, ACDC Family, None of It Tidy, AFK Geocaching, Josh Boggs, and our new patron, Carrot Killer.
I know Carrot Killer.
I know. It's awesome. I know Carrot Killer too, man. He's good. If you'd like to become a patron, head on over to patreon.com/geocache talk for more details. Patrons get path tags, coins, other geocaching swag during the year, as well as invites to special events only for patrons. Support levels start at as little as $3 a month. Let me start by welcoming my very excited to talk about this subject co-host, Jesse.
I know. I was just talking to the chat room. I was like, we almost didn't get the show started because we were having too much fun. But Gary keeps us on task, so we're
right.
For the show.
Crack the whip on these two tonight.
Right.
Yeah. So we're going to jump right into show 98 for May 13th as we welcome to the show Matt Janiak, a.k.a. Geo Monkey Tiger.
Exactly.
Welcome.
Exactly. I would prefer you say it that way every time, please.
Every single time.
Well, I will do that. So, because we're going to ask you in a little while about how you got the name Geo Monkey Tiger.
And you can't even do those exclamation points anymore, right?
Darn right. You cannot.
So, or spaces, which I'm very happy that I have a space in my name and you can't do that anymore.
Letters and numbers. That is it now.
I have an ampersand.
And
we're grandfathers.
Sorry, letters, numbers, and the special language symbols. Like I think you could do the tilde or some of the things like that. But
yeah.
I think all three of us then, because I've got an ampersand in mine. I don't think you can do an ampersand anymore.
Nope, that's right. So that means we're old.
We are old. and I know, I guarantee I'm not changing it now because I'd lose it.
Oh, you better believe it. And like actually, my name is older than me because I found that one cache like a million years ago. So I'm not actually, I got sneakied into grandfather because I'm not really that old into the game. So, but hey, it works and I'm keeping it and I'm not changing anything. So,
right. Well, we got a lot tonight, so we're going to just sort of get to the meat of this show real quick. But we have some news, and actually, the first news item comes from Matt, as we were talking about before. He wanted to mention something about last week's show. We did the Do you know the way to Cincinnati, and so he wanted to mention something we missed. So what did we miss, Matt?
I just, when I was listening to your show, I thought you had a lot of great ideas, but the one thing I always look for when I'm hitting the road caching are large geocaches or large containers. I've been really obsessed with them, trying to get over 100, and I just hit 100 this weekend, so I'm pretty excited about that. But everywhere I go, I'm always looking for larges.
That's awesome.
And there's some really cool ones in Cincinnati as well. So there's one up there that's a car near Dayton that's really fun to do.
Oh, yeah.
It's literally somebody's car that they've left in their front yard, or not front yard, but in their house.
Right. Yeah. They're nice. They really are nice to find. Jesse and I found one when he came down to Denton for the Texas Challenge. We found one in the back of a Conestoga wagon. So
that's right.
That was different. Just, you kind of look in, you're like, I think it's supposed to be in here. It's like, yep, it's this huge, ammo can. You're like, well, it's a good spot for it because it's not out in the not out, in the elements. It was nicely covered in a wagon. So
I had to go look. I've only found 50 larges.
That's
you do not find
good.
When I started trying to get 100, I realized very quickly you do not find 100 large caches by accident.
No, you do not.
You never are just looking at your stats like, oh crap, I've got 220 large. No, you just don't do that. You are.
And if I remember right, I found that 50th large for a challenge.
There you go.
It's the last one. I don't even remember when that challenge was. It must have been a while back, but you don't find larges that often.
Right. I think there's only I've been looking in my home state here at Georgia. I think there's only like 123 in the whole state.
The whole state.
Oh my gosh!
So
wow.
Now I'm going to have to look at my state.
Yep, there you go. Now you have to go to Colorado. Yep. All right. Something. This is kind of funny because I'm going to tease something we can't talk about, but I can't not at least tease this because it's kind of cool. So there's something coming at the end of May, and Jesse and I can't even talk about it. So in fact, I asked the person who gave us the information, and I said, "Ooh, can we talk about it on the show? Because we're kind of like a media outlet. So can we kind of announce this thing?" I'm like, "No, we're not gonna let you announce it." It's like, dang it. Well, you know what? They can't stop me from teasing it. So I'm teasing that there's something coming out in the end of May. So
what we should have done is had Rock Chalk on. He can't keep a secret for anything.
He can't keep a secret for
He's
nothing.
so excited. He's like, okay, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but
that's more Jesse Tuttle than it is.
Oh my gosh, both of them. Yeah.
Rock Chalk. But anyway, so everybody stay tuned. It sounds cool. We're looking forward to it, but that's all I can say. So they're like, "Oh, Gary, I can't believe you just did that." But,
and I got some good ideas for it too.
I just did. Okay, quick Giga stock update. What's funny is there's been some discussion on Facebook group about Giga stock. People are like, "What's a cool name we could come up with for Geo Woodstock?" And Susan chimed in and told the little group, like, "Call it Giga stock." And it was like, "Oh, nah, it's not. It's too short or whatever." And she's like, "Hey, I thought this was pretty good." So one person chimed in and goes, "That's it. We're making it. We're hashtag Giga stock from now on." Said everybody needs to dive in and do that because they can't put Giga in the official materials and blah, blah, blah. Geocaching.com will kind of get on them about stuff. But anyway, a couple quick updates about Giga stock. One is the podcaster booth. So pretty much all the podcasts all the podcasts that are going to be there. Geo Gearheads, Caching in the Northwest, Podcasher, and us. We all gathered together and we're doing a booth together. And so we've got 2 giveaways. So if you're going to Cincinnati, you're going to Gigastock, make sure you come by and first try to find one of us because we're going to be roaming around and we've got lots of giveaway tickets. So you'll need to grab you a ticket. Come back to the booth at 11 or 3. You pick whichever one you want. And we've got a pile. I mean, it's like a trunk load of stuff that we're giving away at each of those times. So we've got cool gadgets that Daryl is giving away. He's got coins from Cache-A-Maniac way back in the day. If you're nostalgic and you loved the old Cache-A-Maniac show, Geo Gearhead show, some of that we're going to be giving away. One of our coins, so we'll probably throw one in each giveaway. Podcasters got some stuff that they're going to be giving away, and so it's going to be kind of fun. So actually, we're giving away. There'll be 4 things. We're giving 2 away each hour, 11 and 3. And if you want to go see the vloggers, I guess you can go see them too. I don't know. They're somewhere around. I don't know.
They're kind of going to be there.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, quick question. Is it true that guests that appear on your show in the month of May get 1,000 extra tickets for the raffle? Did I understand that correctly in what you sent?
I'll have to look into that.
Okay, thanks. That was my understanding. So
yeah, that was your understanding. Well, yeah.
Anybody that gets to win one of those coins, though, there's not very many of our coins left.
No, in fact, we cut it off. We had to stop selling them because we got down to just a handful, and we wanted to keep a few left for patrons and such. So when we get new patrons, you get a coin. So we want to make sure we got a coin to them. So anyway, yeah, the vloggers, I think they're caged, and you can bring well, you're not supposed to bring food, so don't bring food and feed them, because we don't want to feed. Don't give them sugar. Yeah, don't give them sugar. We've got enough issues with the vloggers. They're going to be causing a lot of problems in it. No, I'm kidding. So the vloggers will be next to us, and we're trying to coordinate some stuff with them as well. But they got cool stuff they're giving away, so we're looking forward to that. So, oh gosh, so just looking forward to all that. So I guess now we're going to talk about Webcam Watch and the new.
Let's move on from this Giga junk, because
I know. I'm sorry.
That anymore.
Poor Jesse.
I already petitioned for them to cancel it, and they won't do it. So, so Webcam Watch, little interesting, maybe. Still 114 in the U.S., so we haven't gone down here, but we have gone down in the world. It's now down to 277, so some of them are gone. And there's still 4 disabled. So you can dig deeper in that if you want to, but the numbers worldwide are still going down. We're holding strong a little bit in the U.S. right now. I'm really hoping that we stay well above 100 for the rest of this year. So we'll see.
Exactly.
And then the good news is, though, with our virtual watch for the new virtuals, and there's a link on geocachetalk.com, we're now up to 1454. So that's up considerably from the last few weeks. It's not 4,000 yet, but it's moving up a lot quicker now than it has in the past. So I suspect it's going to start snowballing. And Zach picked 2,000.
Yeah, I didn't commit yet.
I think we'll get 3,000. So let's put our guest on the spot.
Yeah.
How many of the 4,000 by August do you think will be published of the new virtuals? We're going to put you on the spot, Matt.
Oh, this is to me. Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah. We're putting you on the spot.
Yeah. Of the 4,000, let's see.
No big deal. It's just, on video and recorded forever, but no pressure.
I'm going to say 3,241.
Ooh.
3,241.
That's very specific. I think he knows something. That's very specific.
I can't reveal. Well,
if it finishes 3241, Matt, you're going to get
oh my gosh, yeah.
serious emails.
You win geocaching if that's it.
Yeah, he's going to get some serious emails about that.
I mean, I can tell you, I emailed you guys last week because I heard you a couple weeks ago asking why the heck haven't people published them, and I'm one of those people that hasn't published. And
we talked about yours last week. In fact, Jesse was mentioning that you had really good reasons. He thought it was good reasons.
Yeah, and I heard, and the other one that I didn't mention there was longevity too, because I thought I had the coolest virtual cache picked out. It was it's in Augusta, and it was called the Haunted Pillar, and it was supposedly this pillar that was left from some building that if you touched it, you died. That was the rationale behind
this. That was the legend.
That was the legend. I was going to call the virtual "Can't Touch This" and make it a fun MC Hammer. I thought this is awesome.
Oh, that's great.
And like a week before I was ready to do this, I saw somebody hit it with their car. And it was gone, and it's gone, right? And I thought, that's my ultimate nightmare. I get this once in a lifetime opportunity to publish a virtual. It doesn't even get the first to find, and I have to take it down because whatever it is gone. But
that's like the geocaching Hall of Shame.
It really is. But what I was going to say is I've been in touch with a lot of people in the community here, and I don't know everybody in Georgia that got one, but I know several that have. And there's a lot of talk amongst them, and even like some of the people I don't know who got one, other people know and such. And we've got a pretty high rate of people here that intend to publish. I think there's only one person I've heard of that just everybody is pretty sure will never publish the virtual. But out of like maybe, and I didn't do a real count, but like 10 or 11 people, everyone but one is intending to publish something. And obviously a lot of people I know that haven't are in the same situation I am, where they're just really trying to find the great spot that won't get hit by a car and disappear in a week and such. So
cool.
I may or may not have one.
He may not.
I wouldn't confirm that. But if I did, I may be going next weekend to scout the location and I've been really indecisive, but I'm trying to lean towards. It's me and a buddy that may or may not have access to one, and I'm going for my favorite place on the planet, which I have mentioned before, but I'm not going to say what it is right now. And I really hope it works out because it's as far as I've traveled, that's my favorite place on the planet.
Will it be a 5-5 virtual? Really? Could it be a 5-5, Jesse?
It can be. You know, there were 13 before these came out. Now there's more. But I don't know if it'll be or not. It depends on which direction to go. But both are available based on the area. So
cool.
And if it is a 5-5, it'll be a true 5-5.
Yeah.
It won't be a cheater 5-5. I promise you that. So.
Just can you climb a tree a little ways and call it a 5-5?
Yeah, I don't think a tree cuts it. So it would definitely involve rappelling without a doubt. But so I think a bunch of them are going to come out. So I feel safe to say 1,300. 3,000. That's not as good as 3,421, but I think we'll get at least 3/4 of them out.
I'll guess 28.99.
Oh, geez. What is this? Price is right. Come on now. $1.
28.99. $28.99. I don't know. We'll get the rest of the talk networks put in. So
I'm glad the chat room asked it because I would have felt bad asking the question. Did the car that crashed into the pillar, did they
die?
Well, here's the thing. Two things about that. One, the report didn't say. But two, I couldn't decide if that was a technicality or not, because technically they may have never touched the pillar. Their car did.
And the car died.
Right. I mean,
right?
the car,
the car died. So
whatever, but yeah. So I think necessarily, even if the person didn't die, it wasn't necessarily a lack of faith in the pillar, because technically the car hit it, and so.
I think when this originally came out, because I've heard about this pillar, but I know that everybody who touched it like 200 years ago, they're dead. They are gone.
Yeah, 100% of them.
Yeah, so it's got to be true. So
got to be. I mean, that's scientific, I believe.
That's scientific. You believe it's scientific. I like that.
You can't argue with fact.
No, you can't. So I have one last thing. So for the news, I need some help on this one. As everybody knows, because I've been whining for months because of the Giga, I can't go to the Giga because my daughter's graduating. Well, for anybody that's seen any of my social media stuff ever, my favorite thing that I have in the world, outside of my kids, of course, is my Jeep that we go caching in.
And your wife. We put your wife up there too.
Of course. I mean,
I know.
Object. I don't own those things, right?
Yes.
Is my Jeep. But I found out a way to now give my daughter my Jeep for her graduation.
Wow.
And that's, if anybody knows me, that is my favorite thing that I've ever owned ever. It's a great Jeep for Colorado. It's awesome. But as part of that, I can't walk to work, right?
Right.
So I got to get me a new Jeep. Woo!
Ooh, new Jeep, baby.
Very excited. But I'm one of those really weird people that names all of their vehicles. So I need a name. We're struggling in my household. I got a gray Rubicon, the brand new one. It's got all the fun toys with it, but I need a name. I'm struggling.
And I'm sorry, real quick, just to make sure. Did you miss the obvious solution? You can give your daughter the new Jeep. If you really liked your old one that much.
Come on now. I did have to bring it a little more reasonable. I had 37-inch tires on it, and it was lifted and all that other stuff. I had to be a little more reasonable and bring it back down. But so I got a new Jeep, and I've named every single one of mine that I've ever had, and they're all trackable and all that other stuff. But I need some cool names for a gray Jeep Rubicon. So I need we're stuck. The family names every single one of them, and we don't have any good names for this. So a geocaching mobile that's a gray Rubicon. I want to hear some good names. So anybody that's got some good ideas, family-friendly ideas, by the way.
Send them to Geocache Talk at
Geocache Talk. Send them in. Let's see what we got.
Yep. Or in the chat room, one of the two. Geocache Talk at gmail.com or in there. So, all right, let's get into this. Let's get into this topic.
That's right.
We're going to talk about challenges. We're going to do two things. We're going to kind of talk. First half will be about the GGA weekly challenges, and then we're going to kind of wax philosophically. Matt's got some ideas we want to talk about challenges in general. So we're going to kind of two-part. Let's start with we're going to talk about the GGA, their challenges. But before that, we need to give some information because not everybody listened to the Gearhead show. Although I have in the show notes, Matt was on a couple weeks ago on Gearheads, and so if you want to listen to that show later on and get some more information, that link will be in the show notes. So we want to start though with a quick bio of GeoMonkey Tiger. So
that's great.
So tell us about how you started geocaching and how you came about with GeoMonkey Tiger.
Well, funny enough, I had a friend, a Facebook friend that I went to high school with, and she lives in St. Louis, and I saw her posting on her Facebook page about this thing called geocaching. So I'm like, what the heck is this? And she explained it to me, and I signed up and went and found it. I thought, oh, this might be kind of fun to do with the wife. She might enjoy this. So we tried a couple, and actually it was funny. I was looking through my history a while back, and I live in Georgia, and my first geocache was in Florida. My second was in Illinois, and it took me sorry, my second was also in Florida, but then my third was in Illinois, and then it took me my fourth geocache before I found a Georgia geocache, which was just odd to me, my own state. But anyway,
that bodes well, Matt, to talk about everything else tonight, because that's maybe
exactly
perfect for your whole
maybe that could be a challenge cache that I could create, the find 2 states before your home state challenge cache. I'll have to see if I can do that. That'd be kind of cool. Well, I take that back. I need somebody else to publish it so I can go claim the find.
That's right.
There you go.
Let's see.
And like 10 other people, but that's okay.
But that's another story.
That's for later in the show.
Anyway, all right, keep going.
Anyway, so I had a different GeoNick to start, and I didn't know what to create as a GeoNick. So my middle name, this will come as a shock to anybody, and I swear I'm not lying, but my middle name is Aloysius. Good Polish name that I get from my father's father. So I was originally Aloysius J, which was a pretty dumb GeoNick, and when the wife was going out, she really likes monkeys and tigers, right? And so when we were out in the woods, she'd get a little bored. So one thing we'd do is when we saw the cache, we'd yell, geocache, and point and such. And and if she started getting bored, I'd go, is that a monkey? And is that a tiger? And so awesome. GeoMonkey Tiger, and then there's an exclamation mark because it's something you yell. GeoMonkey Tiger.
It's perfect.
You don't just go. I mean, otherwise it's just GeoMonkey Tiger. Right. I mean, GeoMonkey Tiger.
That's right. GeoMonkey Tiger.
And I didn't know this when I picked the name, but I will say it's worked out very well. It abbreviates quite beautifully to GMT exclamation mark.
Exactly.
Nice. And we have our Georgia Geocache Association. We have a website. We have forums and such, and you have to have a username for the forums. Our usernames we can't have punctuation in our usernames. Right. And I was so adamant about my exclamation mark that in our forums, much to our web person's dismay, I'm actually GeoMonkey Tiger exclamation mark spelled out EX.
Right.
That's funny.
So I have this 40 70 character long, GeoNick that overflows out of every box he's built in the forums and just doesn't fit anywhere. So
before we get to this week's challenge, because they publish on Sunday, right?
Yes, Sunday nights.
Sunday night, and we've got this week's week 19 called "So Far Away." We're going to talk about that in a minute, but let's kind of back up on that. Let's talk a little bit about the origins of the Georgia challenges, and if you want, let's plug because there's some things I didn't know until I listened to the Gearhead show, but some things about the GGA, which was fascinating. The fact that the GGA is the very first state group.
Yes.
That's awesome.
The very first geocaching group.
Right. Oh, wow. First geocaching group.
Very cool.
Of any kind. That's awesome.
Yes. 2001. We were formed in June 2001. We actually have our birthday celebration every June.
Oh, awesome. That is great. So, but the challenges are more recent.
Correct.
Okay.
And the challenge has really evolved. I mean, when you look at what's the point of the GGA, we have a number of things we want to do, and most importantly of all is we want to encourage people to get out and cache and have fun. Oh, are you taking my picture? Hi. Oh, sorry.
I am. I'll explain that one later.
But we want to do things that encourage people to get out, go cache, and have a good time. That's the most important thing.
Right.
We really want to try to reach out to cachers at all different levels. We don't just want the guy that's got 50,000 finds and has been caching since 2001. We want new people, medium people, all kinds of things. Right. And Georgia's a pretty decent sized state. We're not a small state. So when we talk about things we could do, we really want to try to encourage things, whether it's people that live in the metro Atlanta area or people that live in the South or on the coast. Wherever they live, we want them to be able to do these kind of things. And then we have a web page with forums and such, and we also have a Facebook page as well, where people like to, where we want people to share stories and such. And so we really want people posting their caching pictures, their adventures, their stories, etc. And then of course, each month we do a GGA event, and we want people to attend those events. So
that's cool. Let's all do that.
We do an event each month. And so at the beginning of the year, we have a steering committee that kind of leads or manages the responsibilities of the GGA each year. And we said, what can we do that does all these things, or that will do any part of these? And so we came up with this idea of doing these weekly challenges, and we weren't 100% sure at the time if it was going to be weekly or monthly or quarterly or whatever it was, but we really felt that it kind of ticked a lot of the boxes. We thought this could be a fun way to encourage people to get out and do this. So we created this process, and basically we've been creating a challenge each week. We publish the challenges on Sundays, and then the way we do it is for our challenge period, it always runs Monday to Sunday. And I know not everybody has weekends off, but many people have weekends off. So we kind of did that on purpose. So if it's, if you go caching on Saturday or Sunday, we give you the challenge that Sunday night. You've got all week to plot out your kind of caching plan. And I know, unfortunately, there's some people that schedule doesn't apply to, but it accommodates a lot of them.
Right.
We do have some fun. Every challenge is named after a song, so people can figure out the songs. Some of them we've had to stretch pretty far. I had to pull some French country tune for the Souvenir Week challenge that we had. That's awesome. And I had a couple of people say, "That's not a song." I'm like, "No, it is a very, very catchy French country song." Yeah,
it is a song. Yeah, that's good.
I got to stop talking about it because I'll get it stuck in my head for another week. It was a really
there you go. Week you don't want that. You don't want.
But what we did was we basically, when we designed this, is we tried to design this such that you can use any cache. So it wasn't like we were going to say you had to go to X cache or Y cache, etc. We were going to publish some criteria that you had to meet, or a challenge you had to meet, and it didn't matter which caches you found as long as they met the criteria. We also, in a way, we struggled to figure out, how do you keep it relevant for somebody that's new and doesn't have a ton of cache experience, or even somebody not necessarily new, but not everybody has 10 hours a week they can go caching. Some people have an hour a week or a half hour a week or something like that they can go. So how do you keep it relevant between those folks that are new or less experienced or don't have time, and then those folks that are diehard on the other end? And so we came up with the concept of levels. So each week we have a bronze, silver, and a gold. And the bronze ones, a lot of times you could probably do the bronze by accident some weeks.
Right.
And very seriously, and it's set up that way. What we want to do is get people out caching. We don't want to kill people and say your challenge this week is to find 300 caches or anything like that. We want you to get out and have a good time. So we came up with this bronze, silver, gold kind of framework. Some weeks we throw an alternate out there. We don't do that every week, but we throw it out there sometimes. And usually when we throw the alternates out, it has something to do with the accessibility of the cache. So one of our challenges early on, for instance, it was called New Kid in Town, after the Eagles song. And the challenge was you had to find newer caches. So I don't have the levels right in front of me, but I think the bronze level was you had to find a cache that had been out less than a month. I think the silver was less than 2 weeks. And then the gold level was you had to find a cache the day it was published. You didn't have to be first to find, but you had to find it the day it was published. And when we were thinking about that one, we knew that that would be a pretty darn easy challenge in Atlanta. Because there's a lot of caches that get published. But if you're in South Georgia or West Georgia or something where there just aren't as many folks out there, we knew that would be tougher. So that was one of the weeks we did an alternate and said, you know what, you can publish a new cache, and that will count.
Credit.
Yes, and that will count as your gold for the week. So you could do this course of action versus that. And we've done that a couple of other times. We did a type challenge one week where we asked people to find, actually it wasn't a type, it was a size challenge. And we asked people to find all 7 sizes, which include virtual. And we know that there are a lot of folks that have actually found every Georgia virtual cache, right? So it was going to be tough for them. So we had an alternate that allowed them to do some different criteria in order to meet that. So that's kind of our framework. We have gold, silver, bronze each week.
And then you have a leaderboard. Go ahead. I was going to say you have a leaderboard too, so that's kind of cool.
I was going to say we do 2 things with that then, and basically after each week, you have until the challenge runs Monday to Sunday, and then we give people Wednesday to submit their proof that they've completed this, and we just ask for an email listing what they've done, and sometimes we'll say this proof is better than that proof, etc. But you send in your proof, and then we do 2 things with that. One is we keep track of your points on a leaderboard. So we have a leaderboard of the challenges and who's done what and how many challenges, etc. And then the second thing we do, and by the way, the challenges, doing the challenges, being on the leaderboard, we allow anybody in the world to do that with us. We encourage it. Cool. Yeah, we encourage it. We love it. We love to see people doing it. We've got a handful of folks that I don't even know if they've ever been to Georgia that do these challenges with us each week, and they're a ton of fun, and they're having fun with it and having a blast. So anybody can do that. Anybody can be on the leaderboard. Totally, we welcome all. The second thing we do is reserved for our official GGA members, and those are ones that have attended a GGA event at some point. And what we do for those folks is we take those points that they've been earning for the gold, silver, bronze, and we put those we convert those basically to drawing tickets. And we do some prizes each month, and we pull the names out of the hat, and we give those prizes away. We purposely said when we did this that you didn't have to be present to win. So you don't have to actually attend the meeting. We do the drawing at each month's meeting, and you don't have to be present to win. But one of the incentives that we came up with is if you attend the meeting, whatever number of entries you have will double that.
That's cool.
So we hope that would encourage some folks to come out to our meetings.
That's I think that's perfect. I think you guys really thought it out well, and I like I think that's so great that y'all do that, and to make it a way and then you have these prize drawings. That's a great idea. So
there's a bunch of questions from the chat room already, and they're really good ones. Okay. Let me throw 2 or 3 of them out, because I know we're going to get to them later, but just so we don't forget them.
No,
you covered it while we were talking, but can anybody participate in this? And you did say that it doesn't have to be Georgia caches, so you could be anywhere as long as it satisfies the requirements for that challenge.
That's right.
You could be in Sweden, you could be in Lithuania, you could be anywhere.
Right. And then somebody else said, who comes up with all the criteria? It sounds like a lot of work. And then let me see, how does somebody get started in it? Those are the 3 main questions.
Okay. Well, let me do the how does somebody get started with it one first. The easiest way is you can go to our website, which is ggaonline.org. So ggaonline.org. And we have a forum section there. So when you go to the webpage at the top, you'll see a bunch of tabs, and one of them is labeled forums. You do have to register to be part of their forum, so you have to put in your email address and such. But I promise we don't do anything. Well, we did raise some capital by selling them some Eastern European folks last year, but they seem really nice.
Hang on.
But that's just the Social Security numbers. None of that's important.
Exactly. I mean, all we need is Social Security number, date of birth, mother's maiden name, and just a few. No, I'm absolutely kidding. We get your email address, and we don't do anything with it. So you can register, and once you register in the forums, you can view the information, and we have a whole section dedicated to the challenges. There's a section where we have the rules, or the base rules of it. You can read. I think I covered most of it, but I probably skipped over something, or I may have been unclear on something. But we have the rules posted. We have the challenges there, and we have the leaderboards that we post as well. So all of it's right there. You just go. You can view the current challenge. The current challenge just posted tonight. And at the end of each week, and the instructions are in the rules section, but we have we have a email address that you send the proof of completion to, and we track that for you.
Very cool.
So somebody's brand new. Let's assume all of our people are brand new, and last week's was to find 3 or 2, 4, and 7 non-physical caches. I think it was last week's challenge, right?
Yes, I have that up. It was Making Love Out of Nothing at All. See, I want more credit for the song titles. This is one of the hardest parts here. So, yes. So last week was all about non-physical caches, or I think that's a word I made up, but everybody understands.
It works.
And it was 2, 4, or 6 were the numbers. So
2, 4, or 6. Okay.
Yes. So if you found
through tomorrow, right? They have. If they're working on it last week, they have all the way through tomorrow.
No, it ends Sunday. So the challenge periods are always Monday to Sunday. So they've got, depending on where you live, 2.5 to more hours. And if they are from Sweden, I'm afraid they've already missed it.
Or they sent it, or they already sent it in.
Or they've already sent it in.
But so if we were going to do this week, and we talk about what we did last week, all of our listeners and us right now would have, or watchers, because by the time they listen, it'll be too late. Up to Wednesday to send in the qualifications, right?
Correct. Wednesday. Okay.
And they can.
When they send it in, they'll send it into our email address that we have, and we track that. And we also, just as an FYI, we always confirm back, so you know that we got it. And we usually send a quick note that says, "Hey, I've got you down for the gold for this week. Great job. Have fun, with the next week."
Okay. And then what's this coming up week's challenge?
Yep. Well, what's funny, I just want to mention real quick is the Carrot Killer says he's second place on the leaderboard, and he put in a note. He's behind his wife. So,
oh my gosh, that's crazy.
That's awesome. And then Josh Boggs says he's gonna work on that this week. So I think you're gonna get a bunch of extra people, Matt.
That's awesome. You know what? And it's a ton of fun. We get some more competition on the leaderboard. That's exactly what we want. So it's cool to be able to be here and talk about this. But
this week so far away.
I'm thinking of the Stained. I'm thinking of the Stained song is the one. That
okay. We'll allow it.
Although I will also accept the Avenged Sevenfold song as well.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Fine choices. I tend to think of Stained first, but
I'm in. I like both. I like Stained and
you got me interested.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, exactly. And this week's actually is kind of interesting. This week's challenge has been different in 2 ways from all of our other challenges. First of all, for the first time, you can get the gold this week by finding 1 geocache, which has been
oh my gosh.
But the trick is, and this is certainly harder for some folks than others, you have to find a geocache whose nearest neighbor is at least 2.5 miles away.
Oh dear.
And I'll tell you, I did a lot of research before we published this one to make sure it was attainable and to figure out the right levels, right? And this is, and we'll probably talk a little more about this later, but a big challenge with these challenges is figuring out the right levels, right? And originally I was going to do 5 miles was the number that I had in my head when I first came up with that. And I determined that was pretty darn hard, at least in the state of Georgia.
Right.
But you find a cache for gold level. It's any cache that's 2.5 miles at least from its neighbor. And in case people are wondering, there's a really easy way to check that as well. So don't think this is a really hard thing to check. And we actually published notes about how to check it this week as well in our.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, if you're if you're on the cache page, there's actually a link. It's kind of underneath the hint, and I never look at these, but there's a little section that says find, and it's got like all these different things. It's where you would go if you're looking for benchmarks or things like that. But there's one of the links that says find all nearby caches, and when you click that, it just displays the closest caches and how far they are. So it's 1 click to figure out if it meets the criteria. But anyway, so 2.5 miles for the gold this week, 1.5 miles for the silver, and 0.5 mile for the bronze. And then the other thing that we did this week that we've never done before as well is we offered up a a special bonus to folks that if they could find the most remote, so we'll keep track of how remote your cache is. If they can find the most remote, we'll give them a pass that they can trade in a future week for a free gold. So if you want to take a week off, or you just got something busy coming up, and you can even donate it if you want. So if Carrot Killer gets it and he wants to give it to his wife because she's got extra work that week, he can donate it to his wife. But that's the challenge for this week. And then the one thing that we did say for this week's challenge, and each week will have its own set of criterion that we'll use for this. But one thing we did say this week is because we know puzzles and multis can be a little funky. Where do you go? So we just said, look, let's throw those out. Your find this week has got to be a traditional letterbox, a virtual or earth cache. Those are the ones that are going to be that. And the one I think of, we have a cache here in Georgia. It's actually only about 30 miles from here, but the posted coordinates are in the Indian Ocean. It's like it doesn't even come up when you click nearby caches. It doesn't even show anything because there's probably nothing for 500 miles.
Right.
So that one won't count this week. It's an old mystery cache, obviously.
Old mystery.
Right. Before I think it's like a 2002 or 2001, somewhere in there. But yeah,
sounds great.
So we're doing traditionals this week and such, and it's been kind of fun. I've already seen some people. Some people have been like, "Oh, hey, I've already seen one," and I know some of my Metro friends here are going a little crazy because it is much harder in the metro area. And like I said, originally we thought 5 miles might be a good thing, but there are not a lot of caches out there that.
No. And I think I looked at some of the challenges, and oddly enough, I listened to you on Geo Gearheads, and all three of us have been on Geo Gearheads in the last month or so, which is funny.
True.
But
yeah.
The funny thing is, you do these challenges, and when you first look at it, you're like, "Oh, that's easy." It's not as easy as it looks. Like this last week's was the non-physical caches, which is a new term you coined. And that actually is harder for some people. Like I attended 3 events this week, which is rare. I don't usually attend that many in a week. However, there's not a virtual or an earth cache anywhere close to me that I hadn't already gotten.
Yep.
So that's kind of hard. I think the closest earth cache to me that I haven't gotten is like 30 miles as the crow flies, which is like 3 hours away. So
right.
It's harder to get some of these for some people, so it's challenging.
And and one of the things that we really try to do as well, I mean, in addition to trying to make it challenging for the gold level people, and you were talking about last week's challenge, and that's a really good example. First of all, we did the non-physical week last week, and last week was our GGA event, or yesterday. I say last week. Yesterday was our GGA event. So one of the things that we did was we said, if you come to the GGA event, A, that's a non-physical cache. B, we'll count it triple. So if you want to knock 3 off your list, come on down to our event. That's good. That's good. You've just made life a little bit easier for yourself. And this was especially important this month. We are a statewide organization. We did this month's event was very, very, very far south. We were almost in Florida this week. And so, we really wanted folks to come down and do that. And a few people did take advantage of that. There are a few people that came down they even come up and check with me at the meeting. They're like, okay, now just so I'm clear, this counts as 3, right? I'm like, yep, it counts as 3. But so yeah, we try to find ways, and we work really hard. Our GGA events are always the second Saturday of the month. So our second Saturday, the weeks that fall on that second Saturday, we always try to find a way to make the event count towards that week's challenge. Again, just as another way to encourage folks to come to the events and have some fun with us. But to your point, you're right that the more experienced cachers definitely will have a harder time with that, because a lot like you have done a lot of earth and virtual caches and such. And that's touch. But on the flip side, we're really hoping to get some newer cachers involved. And I think a lot of times newer cachers are scared of an earth cache or a virtual cache. So we've tried to find ways in the challenges to really encourage some of those things that maybe folks would have to step outside of their comfort zone for. So we've encouraged multis and puzzles and slightly higher DT ratings and such, that you can, you don't have to go out and find 25 puzzles this week to qualify for a bronze or silver, but maybe getting 3 puzzles is the first time you've done 3 puzzles. So that's one of the things that we really want to do with the caches as well. We keep, or the challenges as well. We keep them varied, A, because we don't want folks having to do the same thing every week, but B, we keep them varied because we want people experiencing things that they've never experienced before. And I'll tell you right now, and this will be anybody that's, I don't know how many GGA folks we have or people participating in the challenges, but coming up soon, we're going to do a benchmark challenge. And I think that one's going to be really interesting. I think,
interesting.
Sweet.
And I apologize, I'm getting my podcast mixed up, but I forget if it was you or the Gearheads that are doing a benchmark show coming up. Somebody mentioned they were doing a.
Okay, we have one coming up.
We have one coming up.
Yep. Good, I got the right one then. So actually, I was going to time it to coincide with your show as well. So because I know a lot of folks aren't even familiar with benchmarking. A lot of experienced cachers. So I want them to have some good reference material and such. But it'll be pretty tame. I've already got kind of the levels in mind that we'll do for that. It's not going to be find 100 benchmarks or anything like that. But we are going to do a benchmark challenge, which I think is exactly what we want to do with the challenges: is get folks out doing something they haven't done before, and a lot of people love it.
That's awesome.
And and I think you've done a good job. And I've looked at a few of the old ones or whatever, and I jumped on last week and already signed up, and I'll be sending in my stuff Wednesday for at least this first week. And
awesome.
Right.
I'm in this. I love this. So I love the challenges. I know we're going to get into that too, but I think you've done a good job with the 3 levels of kind of evening the playing field where everybody new and old gets a chance to have some fun with it.
Yes.
It's not going to be something that nobody can do, but it's not going to be something that, you only have to have 50,000 finds or whatever. I think the levels are great. That's one of the keys there.
It's perfect.
And we really, that was something we really talked about on the steering committee a lot, was what can we do that can involve everybody, that doesn't exclude anybody. And we really feel good that we can do this. And our prize drawings, it's been a nice mix. I mean, some of the people that have won the prizes that we do have been people that have been top of the line gold every single week, playing it to the max. But we've also had people that have had just a handful of entries that have made the cut as well. So.
Well, and the other biggest thing is you don't have to be in Georgia to do this, which is, I'm so happy when I heard about that, because I'll be doing this from now on. I'll be doing these challenges, this weekly challenge, and I'm not in Georgia. I'm in Colorado, and it doesn't matter. I can do it right around here, whether anybody else is doing it or not. So that's great.
That's awesome.
And like I said, and that was one of the things too that we really felt would be beneficial, because not only do we have folks that maybe are GGA members that have moved away from Georgia and we still want them playing and having fun, but we know people travel too, right? I mean, we're not going to set it that you have to find this cache in Georgia or something, because you know what, I travel for work, and this week I'm going to be in Illinois all week, and so hey, can I get this cache up in Illinois? And in fact, sometimes it's easier when that happens, because there's 2 nearby.
Right. Exactly. And so, we're going to talk about, in general, about challenges here. But first I want to mention, one of our sponsors, which is FTF Magazine. I don't know why people still have not subscribed to FTF Magazine. It's the greatest magazine out there. And, Jess and I are subscribed. You get such cool content. Keith does an incredible job. If you haven't, and you want to see you physically want to see a copy of an FTF magazine before you purchase, they're cheap. But if you want to see one, and you happen to be in Cincinnati, he will have a booth in the media area, and so come by and see Keith, and you actually get an FTF magazine when you go to the Giga Stock, or if you go to any mega, if you go to Going Caching, you'll get the mini version. And so you can check out FTF Magazine. A lot of great articles, a lot of good ideas, and just he pours so much into those each month.
Well, and it's interesting too. And we've talked about this before, but I'm a tech guy. I mean, a lot of us are, right? Because I like new technology, and I love my iPad and my Kindle and all my other stuff. But this is the one and only magazine that I definitely want the paper copy of. And paper's not even fair, but the hard copy of, because I I keep them. I read them over and over again. And there's actually, and I'm not going to mention which one it is because I can't wait. I really hope she agrees. But there's somebody that was featured in there that I'm really trying hard to get on the show because it's going to lead to something else huge that I'm going to try to do in 2019. And I really hope we get her on the show because, when I read that issue, and I can't say what it is, I'm terrible about keeping secrets, right? But I was like, oh my God. And I think I texted you immediately, like I Facebooked you immediately, like, we're going to get this person on the show, and I'm doing this thing. That's awesome. Thing that's on there. And I really, really hope we get to do that. But it's people everywhere, their stories and everything else. And if you can't get inspired reading that, you're kind of, you're in your own little bubble. So I love that magazine.
That's so awesome. Well, we're going to jump down to a section in the notes that I think will really kind of be sort of a cool second half of the show tonight, which is Matt's tips for challenge planning. And there's a lot of cool stuff in here that some of it you talked about on Gearheads, but I want to elaborate and get you to kind of wax philosophically some. And I know Jesse's going to dive in because he's got some great ideas too. But I want to start with a couple of the challenges that you have mentioned that you have done, or you have either personally or you've done them as part of the GGA weekly challenges. And it really got me to start thinking about, let's say you're not, you haven't done challenges before. You're thinking, I want to do some of the GGA weekly ones, but I also want to kind of start thinking about what we could do as a family, or we could do as a couple that is a little bit different on the challenge, sort of in the challenge area, or they've never done challenges in their life, and they're thinking, other than Fizzy and Jasmine and the ones they normally have heard of, something different. And you were talking the other week about, and I assume, Matt, tell me if this is wrong, but this is one of the GGA challenges, was finding 1-1s.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It was one, either Metallica or Creed, your choice.
Okay.
Metallica. That is the correct answer.
I wanted to say Metallica, but I thought the Creed song fit a lot better. I won't sing it otherwise you wouldn't have any listeners anymore. But I found myself humming the Creed song much more.
Creed song. I like Creed and I like Metallica.
I wanted it to be Metallica, but it just didn't work. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, you're fine. No, but my first thought when I first heard that when you were talking about that on Gearheads, I was like, a 1-1 challenge, huh? Yeah. And then you go, don't laugh at this. You go take a look and see how many 1-1s are around you. And so you start looking, you're like, oh, this was a little harder than I thought it would be. So is that what you found too?
Yes. And that's exactly what I thought. And again, well, from a pure kind of technical standpoint, I think that happens for a couple reasons. I mean, one, there just aren't, if you think about the technical definition of a one terrain, it's handicap or wheelchair accessible, right? Mm-hmm. And it's supposed to be that. And unfortunately, I mean, I wish there were more one terrains out there. There are a lot that aren't, right? I mean, if you have it on a lamppost skirt that's 5 feet from the curb, it's technically not wheelchair accessible, and somebody's going to rate that a 1.5, right? So you've got tons of 1.5s. But the one terrains are kind of tricky. And I think the other thing from a technical standpoint too is, and I just relate this to my own personal experience, and I don't know how much it relates to others, but hey, when I first started geocaching, 1-1s were pretty attractive to me because I didn't know what I was doing and I wanted something easy. So you know what? There may be 21-1s in my home radius, but I did those in the first 2 months of caching.
You blew through them. They're gone.
Exactly. They're just gone, worse than blowing my streak days. So
right. So so makes it different. It's a different kind of challenge for you.
And then third, and I think this is important as well, but let's face it, us geocachers, sometimes we can be snobs, right? We're like, I'm not going to go for that 1-1. I'm going caching this weekend. I demand 5 4.5s. That is the only cache that I shall find, right? I mean, and so I think sometimes people forget you can have some really cool 1-1s. And that was one of the really cool pieces of feedback that I got, was people were sending in their challenges or posting on the GGA Facebook page. They're like, I was really surprised how cool some of these 1-1s were. You don't have to have an impossible cache, hidden behind 60 feet of thorns to make it a good cache. You can have a really good parking lot cache, I swear. So it was fun in that standpoint because it really did tick a lot of boxes for what we were doing.
Right. So I just, while we were talking about this, because I was curious, the closest 1-1 cache to me is 10 miles away.
Well,
the next one, and this is the crow flies, right?
Yeah.
The next one is 11 miles away, and then it goes up to 13 and 17 miles away, and then 18 miles away as the crow flies, just to get like 5. I can't get. That's not going to be an easy challenge for.
And I think
a harder challenge than it sounds like.
I'd have to take a look, but I believe the challenge that week was 7 or 8 of them for the 1-1. So.
Oh gosh.
All right, I'm gonna do mine real quick. So 1-1. It can be any size.
Yeah, right. I'm going over 20 miles, and
I haven't found.
Events don't count, right?
No, events did count.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yep. Any 1-1.
Oh, I got one 7 miles away. I need to go grab that thing. 7.9 miles, and then 8.4, and then it goes off the scale at that point. So I've got a couple actually. They're not too far away that I could probably go grab. So it's interesting though. It's very interesting. Now,
and it was 8, by the way. I looked while you were looking at your thing.
Oh, okay, cool.
And by the way, that 8 or 9 miles is 45-minute drive.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So
that gets difficult really quickly.
Now let's kind of go to the other side of the scale, and there's a lot in between. But this is where I know Jesse's going to be. He's going to be like, "Oh, I wonder if I could do this." 31 days of finding a multi-cache.
Oh my gosh!
Every day. Number one, you got to do a 31-day streak, which is for some people they don't ever want to streak. They don't ever want to do a geocaching streak again after 31 days of August. But not only that, it's got to be all multi-caches.
Well, not all, but just one a day.
No, that's what I mean.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And if you want to geocache in between there, then be my guest. But you want to do 31 days of mysteries or 31 days of multis. And did you actually do this?
Yes, I actually, so I was one of those people that swore up and down, I am never doing a streak. Every person when I started caching, like I knew a ton of people that had done streaks, and every one of them just complained about how miserable they were and how awful they were. And it was the worst thing they ever did. And I thought I am never going to do that. So for 3 years, I never came close to doing it. I had a 6-day streak. That was the extent of my streak. It was 6 days. And then I got really tired of looking at my 366 grid with all the holes.
Right.
So I came up with this thought that, you know what, I'm not gonna do a streak because I'm not doing streaks, but I'm gonna fill in the missing days, right? So if like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday were missing, I'd go out Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and fill in those missing days, and then not do anything on Saturday as well.
Right.
I did that. I started that in November. So I did that in November, and I got like to the end of November. I got to November 30th, and I was looking December, and I had like 23 days missing in December or something ridiculous. And I thought to myself, you know what? I've never done like a 31-day streak, and that just sounds like it would be at least mildly credible, right? So I've already got to go out 23 days. It's only 8 more days. Let me just do all of December. So I did all of December, and then I'm like, well, 31's kind of cool, but 60 would be 60. That's the number. I'm gonna do a 60-day streak.
Oh no!
And then I got to about 55, and I went, no, I need triple digits. I need 101. That's the streak that I need, 101. And then somewhere between like 55 and 101, I just said, forget it, Janiak. You're doing the 366. So I just kind of resigned myself. But when I initially started streaking, the tough part was I had cashed out like everything within maybe 3 or 5 miles of my house because I was never going to do a streak. Right. So I had cashed this out. So I was my only real strategy was I thought, and I would cache in the mornings before work. And I thought, I'm going to go like to the farthest points I can get and kind of work backwards, right? I thought, get the far away caches early so that at the end of the streak, anything that's remotely close to the home when I'm tired of this is there. So I did that for a couple months. That was kind of my only strategy. And one guy had a bunch of caches that he did almost like an alphabet series. He didn't have all 26, but he'd have, you know, A is 4 and B is 4, etc. And I thought, you know what, in February, I'm going to have some fun and I'm going to do those in order, right? I just thought it'd be kind of cool to work through his little series, and, you know, wherever it was, I would go do an order. So I did that in February. And then in March, I thought, well, I'm doing a lot of park and grab. So I made March my no park and grab month. That was my rule, which I had a pretty flimsy rule, but it was, I mean, my rule for no park and grabs was either I had to walk 1/10 of a mile, or it had to have a D or a T above a 2.5. That was my criteria for no park and grab. So and I didn't even know if I'd be able to do that. So I thought, because I thought, wow, I have to go out and get one of these every day. So I did that. It was kind of cool. I did a lot of travel in April, so I didn't really do any theme or whatever. But when I got to May, I thought I should try something. I'm going to be crazy. I'm going to see if I could do multis. So I set out to make May multi-month. I was really worried because I had counted up the multis that I can get to. And I had this philosophy, like on the weekends, I would drive wherever I wanted to. And I always tried to go further away from home on the weekends. But, you know, when you have a job, you've got to have caches that you can go get kind of before work. So, you know, I counted up that I needed 22 days or whatever of quote work caches. Right. And I think I only had a buffer of about 5 or 6 multis, right? So I thought, can I really get these? Right. And 3 days in, I went 1 for 5. I DNF'd 4 multis before work, and I thought, wow, I am never going to do it.
Never going to make it.
But I got lucky, and there were a lot of multis, and I managed to get through, and a couple new published while I was doing this streak, and that worked out really well. I think I even got a couple of multi first defines, which was really cool for multi-month. Nice. But I did the 31 days of multis, and there was a Facebook group dedicated to multis, and I just kind of posted in there and said something like, oh, by the way, I'm going to try to do a 31-day streak. I have no idea if I'll do it. And then somebody commented and said, oh, well, if you're going to do that, you should look at this challenge cache that I saw that's 35 days of mysteries. So I looked it up, and sure enough, there's a challenge cache. It's in Chicago, or the Chicago suburbs. Right. That's 35 days of mysteries. So I thought, well, you know what? I'll do multi-month and finish that up. And then when I'm done, I'll do mystery month. So I transitioned to that. And of course, what's really cool is I occasionally, about maybe 2 or 3 times a year, travel for work. And of all the places in the country to travel, I travel to suburban Chicago. So this challenge cache that was out there was actually something I managed to go sign the log on, which was really cool. But go ahead. You look like
I'll say that's really cool. Go ahead,
Did you sign it before or after qualification?
After. I'm a big after guy.
We differ. I love it.
This is a discussion we had prior to the show.
This is why we almost didn't get started.
These two guys, these guys were going back and forth. They weren't arguing, but it was a big discussion about.
No, it's great, the different ways.
Signing. Yeah, well, I never thought about this because, but do you sign the challenge cache prior to completion, or do you sign it after completion?
So Matt, you first.
I'm a big believer personally in signing it after completion. I very rarely sign it. I've not exclusively done that, but I've probably signed maybe 3 challenge caches before I'd qualified.
So for Matt, signing the challenge cache is the completion. He's done.
Right. It's like the cherry on top.
Right. And for me, it's the start.
For Jesse, it's the opposite.
I find one, sign it, and then start working on it until the rest of time until I get to it.
Now,
the reward start for me.
It's almost like a diploma, right? I didn't go to 4 years of college. I didn't get my diploma, then go to college for 4 years to earn it. I went to college and then got the diploma.
All right, I'm gonna cut you 2 off because we're gonna be all night talking about this.
That's right.
But I do need both of you guys to give some information to those out there that do challenges or just starting to do challenges. And this is my question for both of you guys, because you do it differently. which is how do you keep track of the information about that challenge so that you can finish it either sign before, and how do you keep track of it, or sign after? So Matt, let me start with you. So how do you keep track of, so you hear about some type of challenge, you know where the challenge cache is located.
Yeah.
How are you going to map that out? Do you keep it in a, like, just a standard spreadsheet, or what do you do for that?
Well, and pardon me, I'm going to back up for just a second, because not everybody may know this, especially if they're newer. But one of the things that makes it fairly easy to find most challenge caches, you won't find them all this way, but you'll find probably 95%. But if you're on the geocaching website, you can very easily use the search filters to just filter for mystery caches. Take everything off but mystery. There's a box that says cache name contains, and you put the word challenge there, and then technically you don't have to do any more than that, but I'll usually limit it to, say, Georgia or Alabama or somewhere near where I'm looking, and you can quickly see all the challenge caches that are out there, and you can further do it to say challenges I haven't found, caches I haven't found, and clear off the ones that you hadn't found.
Absolutely.
So I like to do that a lot. Like anytime I'm doing trip planning, like somewhere new, I always kind of run that filter, right? So I'm always looking out, going, hey, I know I'm going to Western Tennessee next month. What challenge caches are out there that I may or may not have qualified for? So I'll do that list, and when I see a good looking challenge, I will put it on a bookmark list. So I keep a bookmark list that's just called challenge caches, and I keep those all on a bookmark list.
Excellent.
If I see a challenge that I like that I've qualified for, I'll also put it on the bookmark list. But the one thing that I do is I like to go in and use that corrected coordinates function. And I literally copy the posted coordinates into the corrected coordinates. It doesn't budge it at all. It doesn't move it at all on the map. But what it does is it changes the icon both in the geocaching app and on the web page map. So as I'm scrolling along, I never have to wonder, did I qualify for this or not? I see that different icon. I know this is something I'm ready to go hunt.
That is interesting.
And I do that. I do that not only for challenge caches, but if I see there's a lot of mystery caches out there that start at the posted coordinates, right? It's the mystery cache, but it's a field puzzle or something like that. I like to do that for those as well before I've hunted them. And we were talking about my multi-streak. I wound up doing 4 months of puzzles afterwards, and it was very helpful.
Wow.
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 It was very helpful because as I was doing my daily cache planning, I would see those little, I don't know what that's supposed to be, a finger or something on the icon, but I'd see the little thing and know immediately those were caches I can go hunt, and I didn't have to go look any further for those. So I like to do that a lot. I usually, what I do is if I see a challenge that I'm interested in getting, or I think I may get it sometime, I change those coordinates to change it on the map. Oftentimes I'll take a quick note just for my own personal reference in that personal note section. And I'll say, qualified on 5/13/18, just some dumb note to remind myself when I saw this, or when I did the challenge, or when I realized I qualified for it. If I think some challenges you can look at and know immediately you've qualified for, right? I mean, the 366 challenge, the Fizzy challenge, the Jasmine challenge, these are challenges that most people know whether they've qualified for them or not. But a lot of challenges, obviously, people don't know if they've qualified for. So the one tip that I would give is it's surprising how many challenge checkers there are on Project GC.
Yeah.
That aren't linked on the page. So just because there's not a link on the cache page doesn't mean there's not a Project GC checker. And I've done some interesting challenges that are fairly complicated that I wouldn't want to look for manually, don't have any indication on the web page that there's or on the cache page there's a checker, but there's a checker that exists in Project GC. So and the other thing that's really cool as well, and I like to do this, but if you qualify for the challenge, most of the time Project GC will give you a very nice log summarizing your your qualification, and you can copy and paste that log into your web page or into your log if you're doing it via the web. And I will say too, I'll throw out the caveat, I do a lot of cache work on the computer. I don't do as much on the apps. So obviously that's more complicated if you log all your caches exclusively through the app, or I play a little bit with GSAC, but I'm not super familiar with it. But
right.
If you're going through the web, it's an easy thing to do.
Okay. So
on the other side of it, so I use Project GC a lot too. I don't use GSAC at all. But you can do the map if you're going to an area, and you can see the challenges that you're qualified for a lot of the times, not always, but they'll automatically show in Project GC. So if you're pulling up an area, like if I was going down to Georgia, I'd pull up that area before I visited, and it shows automatically through your Project GC profile which one of the challenges you're qualified for on a lot of them. Some of them, like the old ones, it doesn't because they didn't have a checker necessarily assigned to it. Or there's something weird that you can't make a checker for, you know. But I sign every challenge I come across. I just go ahead and sign it now and put a write note on the page. And I've signed this, working on the challenge, or signed this, and I'm qualified. If I'm qualified, whether there's a checker or not, I'll go ahead and put that in the thing. Well, if I'm qualified, I'd be then now. But like if I sign it and I'm working on it, or I have half, like say it's 366 and I've only done 200 of them, I'll say I got 200 now and I'm going to work towards this. And I use a bookmark list is how I do it. And I have a bookmark list of tons of challenges that I've signed that I may or may not ever be able to qualify for, but I'm always trying to work towards those. Now, if I got there and I'm qualified for it already and I'm there, I'll sign it. It's a fine law. You know, I found it.
You'll mark it found. You'll go ahead and do it since you're right there.
But. Right. I'm already qualified for it or whatever. But most of the ones that I sign are the opposite of that.
Can you go back, Jesse, now, since you use a lot of the write note, and I never thought about this, can you go back and look at all your write notes? I think you can.
Yes, you can. There's two ways to do that. One, so I'll do a write note on all those. And if you go on geocaching.com, like I do a lot of my stuff on the computer as well, you can just select write note, you know, on the geocache logs, all that, and it'll pull up.
You go to geocaching, yeah.
You've ever written a note on, it'll pull up.
Yeah, you go to don't go to your go to geocaches, and you can do anything, announcements, archived, attended, did
right. You can pick any of those things. Yeah, you can pick but also on Project GC on your profile, it lists under the challenges tab all the challenges you've already qualified for and signed, found it, but also all the ones you ever put a write note on. So it lists them right there automatically for you as well. So because mine are always what I'm working towards. So and then I'll keep a bookmark list, or if it's one of the big ones, a big challenge I'm working on, if it's something crazy, I'll do a spreadsheet or whatever else. But to me, I sign it, and that dictates kind of the 2 or 3 or 4 challenges that I'm working on. Anytime I come near one, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that, and this will fit that challenge.
So that's very cool. So, I mean, you guys, there's 2 really cool ways to kind of go about it, because as we talked about before the show, we've always talked about you geocache the way you want to geocache, or if you want to be, if you want to look for something else to challenge you, there's plenty of opportunity out there to don't ever get. This is a thing, and Jesse and I have ran across people like this who are like, oh, I gave up on geocaching. Well, why? Well, I got tired of blah, blah, blah. It's like, you don't need to ever be tired of what you're doing, because there's always something else you could be doing.
That's right.
You just need to search out whatever that happens to be. And we're going to keep talking about some of those, but also you guys mentioned both, I'm a big Project GC guy, so but we are going to have a show, not too far in the distant future, where we're going to discuss both GSAC and Project GC, and we're going to talk about the positives of both and maybe some things we'd like to see in both. But anyway, that's coming up in the future. So, all right.
That'll be a fun one, though, when we do it.
It'll be fun to talk about, because we're going to get a GSAC person on, a Project GC. Well, we're going to kind of overwhelm them because we're both Project GC, but maybe we'll have to get 2 GSAC guys on so they can kind of sort of help each other out. So we have to get Scott Miller and also get Tom Brotherman so they can kind of help gang up against us, because we're going to be Project GC. But we need more. I'd like to hear more about GSAC. I started to use GSAC many, many years ago, and it was too much for my brain to handle at the time. So maybe it's, whatever. All right, let's get back in the discussion for tonight. One thing that Matt, you mentioned just today, and I threw it in the notes, but because I noticed that you folks that do challenges, you got some real hangups. But they're good hangups. So one of yours is lonely caches. So tell them about your
I love those.
obsession. Or
well, it's not an. Well, I mean, maybe it's a little bit of an obsession. I don't know. Okay. I mean, but well, and I'm sorry. I'm gonna just. I have to say one thing. I just got a text message from a good friend of mine that is exactly on Jesse's list with the signing every challenge log, and she sent me a thing and says, "OMG, I'm dying. I signed every log I come across," and then says, "I am laughing so freaking hard. He is my soul sister." So anyway, I had to do the shout out as I saw that come across.
That's awesome.
We've had that very debate like very, very often here. So, I hate lonely caches. To me, caches want to be found, right? I mean, that's the whole point. If you're a geocache, your only purpose in life is to have a pen scrawl their name across you. So I always hate when I see caches that haven't been found. And interestingly, when I was doing my multi and mystery streak, those caches don't get found nearly as often, which was really sad because I was finding a lot of caches that hadn't been found in, relatively long periods of time, a year, year and a half, 2 years, that were all in perfectly great condition, tons of fun. And I think people just stay away from them. But I've always had this thing for lonely caches, and Project GC will show you that information. It's kind of cool if you haven't played around with the statistics section of Project GC. It's a little confusing because there's one called loneliest caches, and you don't want that one actually, because loneliest caches is a ratio of finds to the time that it's been out. So if it's been out for 10 years and 2 people have found it, but the last one found it yesterday, it'll count as a lonely cache because it'll say it's only found once every 5 years.
Right.
So the stat that I always look at, again, when I'm planning any kind of weird caching day, is I look at the days since last found, and that shows you how long it's been since somebody found it. And I've got a real thing for those kind of caches, and I just think it's cool when you could find one. When I hit my 3,000th cache last August, and my number one goal was the loneliest cache in Georgia. I said, this is what we're going to do. It was I think it was a 5, 4.5. It was, all right. You had to get on a kayak in the middle of nowhere in Georgia. And you had to kayak down from where you go in about a half mile. Then you had to climb this horrific mountain, and you had to find this cache, which was very aggressively hidden. And nobody had found it since, I believe, 2011. And that was just the highlight of, that month for me, was finding that nice lonely cache. And then
we're singing the Three Dog Night song. One is the loneliest number the whole time.
Exactly. So
one is the loneliest. Okay, go ahead.
No, but anyway, so especially when I know I'm traveling rural, like I mentioned, we did our GGA event in kind of way South Georgia this week. And so I was scouring. I know South Georgia has a lot of kind of rural areas that don't get hit very much, and actually picked up the current loneliest cache in Georgia. So I was pretty excited about that as well.
Awesome.
But I just think it's fun because a lot of times cachers get scared by lonely caches, by caches. I think they get scared by there's a whole bunch of things that scare cachers. They get scared by types, right? Nobody likes puzzles and multis, especially newer people. They get scared by DNFs. Oh my gosh, somebody logged a DNF. It must not be there. I'm never going to look for this. And they also get scared by time. If they don't see where a cache has been found in a while, I think what a lot of people do is assume that it must not be there because either A, it's been there a while, or B, because cachers are afraid to log DNFs, it must have 10 DNFs that just nobody's logged. So I always like finding those and kind of putting them back on the map, so to speak, is the way I kind of phrase it. Hey, look, it's here. You found it. It really is. Come find it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's perfect. The outside of lonely caches, which I love going to get a lonely cache, and we have several of them in Colorado that are just at the top of the mountains, and most people do not, they don't get hit more than once a year anyway, even on best case scenarios. But you mentioned the other one that I love, just right behind lonely caches. when I'm looking for caches, especially in my area, I love to find one that has a DNF on it.
Yes,
because I have to go find that and get a smiley face after the DNF. I love that so much. Like, oh yeah, I got it. Especially if it has multiple DNFs. I don't even care if it's not there. I'm going to go try it just so I can get that smiley after all the DNFs. And that's so much fun to me. Like, oh yeah, it's there.
Becomes a challenge.
I'm a big believer in DNFing most caches. If I do a serious attempt, well, some would argue I do DNF most caches, but if I do,
that's another story. That's for another show.
Yeah, if I do a serious attempt at a cache, I am not afraid to log a DNF. And I know a lot of other cachers who will not log a DNF, whether it's because they feel like failures or
drives me crazy.
Exactly. Because
that drives me insane. DNF it. You're not any better than anybody else around here.
Well, and on the flip side, as a CO, as the owner of a cache, I want people to DNF my cache. I mean, I probably should be better about going out every 30 days or 90 days or whatever and checking every single one of my caches, but I'll admit I don't. So when you DNF it, that gives me a prompt to go check it and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely.
Well, I've got one
though. When they don't DNF it because you don't know.
Exactly. You don't know. Exactly. And that's the thing that drives COs insane. It drives me as a geocacher insane. And very few things in geocaching drive me insane. But I do have a couple caches that I like seeing. Well, is it a sick pleasure that I like? Because I've got a cache and it's a bison on a fence. Now it's tricky and I've gotten some nasty logs of people who are like, this isn't there. I can't believe it. Blah, blah, blah. They go off and then somebody else comes along and says, oh, we found it. Took us a minute or two, but we found it. So I'm thinking, yep.
But you love that.
I love it because it's like, I don't know why, but especially because there's this one geocacher in the DFW area, and he went on a rant, and I love it. I need to make a copy of it so if I never lose it. But he went on this rant about this cache. He hated everything about it. He's DNF'd it, and he hasn't come back to get it yet. But he DNF'd it. He hated my hint. He hated everything. He hated the name of it. He hated where it's at. He hated everything about it. And I've had other people who are like, that was a great cache because it was a little tricky and I had to look for it. So,
but you know what? That brings up a question. We're running long, so I want to get my question in before.
Go ahead. Absolutely.
Matt and I both love challenges, and
let's get back.
Matt, I assume you've hidden some of your own challenges too, right?
Actually, I have not. I have not hidden a challenge cache yet.
So, well, then good, because you'll have an opinion on this, and it won't be biased by your own caches or whatever. So, I hid one challenge, and it was the 4 grids, the 366 and the Jasmer and Fizzy, that was the challenge portion of it. You had to get all 4 of the major grids. But, so that's the difficulty portion, right? Well, I also hit it really hard. Man, people went off. Like, I've already qualified. How dare you make this challenge hard? I was like,
dare you not make it an LPC?
This is my cache. I own it. There's an don't find this. There's that option. But
go somewhere else.
Do you think, and when you're finding them too, because I love finding them, should the difficulty, difficulty or terrain are supposed to be different on the new challenge rules? Difficulty reflects, the challenge of it, and the terrain reflects getting to that actual cache.
Right.
But do you think there's anything wrong with hiding a difficult challenge and a difficult to find challenge?
I absolutely do not think there's anything wrong with that, but I'll throw a caveat on there. And I make this caveat with mystery caches as well. And this is what I do as a CO. I personally like it on a mystery cache when people tell me why the D is the way it is.
Yes.
Right? So if it's a 5D puzzle cache or mystery cache, I've hidden it and I haven't hidden a 5D, but I will say in my cache description is an FYI, the puzzle is, a 4.5 and the actual physical hide is a 1.5 or something, something like that.
Right.
And I like that very much on challenge caches. I think it's perfectly fine to hide a challenge cache, although I do think the expected norm is that the challenge cache is going to be an LPC pill bottle.
Not by me.
Yeah, but you know what? If if it says in the description, hey, this is the difficulty and rating is 5, partly because it's hard to get this challenge and partly because I've hidden this very, very well, I don't mind that at all, and I enjoy the challenge.
And so that was mentioned, and we hit another one recently, and it was now if I'm gonna hide though, and people in our areas, everybody knows how everybody hides caches in their own area, right? We did an actual 5-5 challenge, which according to the rules, the terrain has to be a 5, which this was, but that's a different part of it. But we specifically mentioned, so the difficulty of it was find 5 different types of 5-5 challenge, 5-5 caches, different cache types. And specifically mentioned, and that was, this is also going to be extremely hard to find.
So you made a note of that.
No, that's
don't
awesome.
Go for this if you don't want to do that. So
and who knows? Maybe next week's GGA challenge will be find 5 different 5-5 cache types. I like that.
I'm in. I will be gold level that week. I promise you that would be awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's
GGA members. I'm just kidding. It's not going to be a challenge.
Yeah, it's not going to be like that. All right, we got to wrap up for tonight. So. Gosh, where do we start? All right, so Matt, I'm gonna let you have the last word. Give us your last thoughts on challenges.
I think the best thing about challenges is doing something different, doing something that you haven't done before. And I think it's great, even if you have no intention of going to find a particular challenge cache, look for challenges that are just fun new ways to play the game. This game is so much fun and there's so much variety, and most people don't even think of things like doing a 31-day multi-streak or a longer puzzle streak or, doing a alphabet cacher kind of thing, etc. Just look at them, do it, work on them, and have some fun with it, because it could be just a blast and a variety and a new way to do things.
Yep. Love it. Jesse?
Yeah, I would say everybody knows I'm a big fan of challenges, and it's not because they're only the hardest thing to do. It's because they, just like Matt just said, it challenges you to do something different. One of the challenges that I signed it last year, and I'm still working on it, and it really puts me outside of my comfort zone, is to find 100 earth caches. Now, I'm not going to do that anytime quick, I'll be honest. But because of that challenge, other times I would probably skip over an earth cache and do a different type of cache. I go for those now because of that reason, because I have to be able to qualify for that challenge eventually. So it normally, where I would cache only one way, it really opens my horizons, and that's why I'm such a big fan of it. Is it gets you to do outside of your comfort zone, it gets you to do something, and just like the one that they're doing with the GGA, I think that's perfect, because anybody everywhere can find something that's, like a 1-1. You may be one of those people that hates events, but if you're going for that challenge and you're going something different, hey, I'm going to try something a little different this week just because of this. So that's perfect for geocaching. You can't define geocaching better than trying something different.
Well, and I think that even if you're at a point in your geocaching where maybe challenges you've got enough on your plate and you're like, challenges, but what I'm finding, because I'm kind of in that category. I'm in the category of, I still like to find what I'm currently finding. However, being sort of a newbie to challenges, what I think, and this may be several people that are listening, dip your toe into the challenge world and do something that gets you, because what I'm finding is a couple things. One is the friend league that just occurred. The friend league got me to, and this was even for caches that I find at lunchtime, because I usually try to find one cache at lunch, just to kind of, I get out and get away from work and do something which I just deeply love, which is geocaching. But during the friend league, I had to find some that had more favorite points. Well, that can kind of be tricky depending on where you live or where you work. And so there was one that comes to mind that I would probably have skipped for a long time, finding caches in my area around work. But I said, it's got 10 favorite points. I got to go find this thing because it's worth more in Planetary Pursuit, blah, blah, blah. And so I get there and I'm thinking about Jesse this whole time because I'm sitting here and I'm underneath this bridge and I'm like, here I am. I'm at during lunchtime. Clock is ticking. I can get back to work and I'm searching for this stupid cache. And, Jesse be saying, come on, Gary, you can find it. And I can't find this stupid cache. I can get back to work. And of course I do what you should do. Just step back, think about it a few minutes. And I go, I'm in the wrong spot. Got to the cache. It's a really cool, I gave it a favorite point because it's really cool camouflaged cache, and this is why it had a lot of favorite points. I found it, and it was done. I sent Jesse a note actually saying, hey, I just found this. Isn't this cool? Blah, blah, blah. So to kind of wrap up in my thoughts, and that is find something, even if you're not a person that loves challenges or is kind of like, I'm fine. I'm doing fine. I don't need to add challenges to my life of geocaching. Dip your toe into challenges and find something that you're interested that you might really want to do. So anyway, so that's our thoughts. Hopefully you enjoyed the show.
And go check out the ones they're doing down there. That it's GGAonline.org.
GGA,
go check it out, and you can sign up and start doing these week to week, and it can be something brand new.
And the other thing too, you don't even have to sign up or do anything. If you're just looking for a challenge and want to go back and look at what we did back in week 2 or something.
Oh yeah, good idea.
Go do week 2 just for fun because you're looking for something to do this week.
That's perfect. That's a great idea, Matt. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, GGA online, and that is ground A. That was Altoid.
Yeah.
Online.org, and then check the forums out. Get signed up and start doing the challenges. I think you're going to love it. So, all right. Coming up on the show next week, we've got Hendel back on the show from Germany. So we have to do a special time, the fact that he's in Germany. So the timing is always tough for them being in a different time. So we were doing a show at 3 p.m. Central Time next week to accommodate our buddy in Germany, Hendel. And he's got some great stories. We've been talking already about some of the things he's going to talk about, some of the hikes he's done recently to get to a cache. He's got some cool video. We're going to try to show some of that during the show as well. So in 2 weeks, show 100 comes around, and it'll be our anniversary show. We got some things planned for that. I will be probably in like Jackson, Tennessee, I think is where we're going to be. It'll be after
there.
Oh, cool. I'll be after Giga Stock, and that's I think where we're going to be. We're going to go part of the way home on Sunday and finish it up on Monday. But that's for our anniversary show. And then in 3 weeks, Daryl W4 will be on the show. Hey, Geo Gearheads. Daryl W4 will be on the show. We're going to do a Giga recap. He and I on show 101. Jesse will be in South Carolina, right?
Yes. Well, technically yes, but I think I'll be traveling at the time the show's on, so I'll be in the airport. But
you're on your way to South Carolina.
On the way back from South Carolina.
On your way back from South Carolina. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And we're going to get we want to get your events information. We'll get that, and we'll put that in the show notes for next week, so you can go to his events when he's down there. So we'll definitely get you guys the information, so you can go, and please go check out the event and say hi to Jesse.
That'd be very cool. And go caching. Cool. We'll have tons of fun caching.
Absolutely. You can do some caching with him. So, all right. Hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Email us your comments at geocachetalk@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. Where the show is at Geocache Talk. Mine's at Gary Slinkard. And we're big Instagrammers now. So check us out, Geocache Talk or Memphis Mafia, all one word, for Instagram. And our Facebook page, of course, is facebook.com/Geocache Talk. Show can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, all over the world. So you'll love it. And, of course, on our Geocache Talk website. Click on the subscribe button below, and that will remind you. And you can then see and hear the show on a weekly basis. And tell your friends about the show. Get them involved as well. The chat room is always rocking. It was rocking again tonight. So very excited about that. And so until next week, don't just talk about geocaching. You need to go challenge yourself and go geocaching. Good night, everybody.
Good night.